Hello everybody, I'm Kritiki, and I just want to come in front of you guys and chat a little bit about Misery by Stephen King. Alright, this is the first book I've read from him, and boy, let me tell you, I am absolutely blown away. I am so happy that I was able to finally read one of his books. It was phenomenal. I was thoroughly enjoying every second of it. I really couldn't put it down. His writing style is like almost hypnotic in a way where when I was reading it, I wasn't exactly like, when I was reading it, it's not like I was sitting there like, wow, like the words he's using in this is like the most beautiful thing I've ever written. That would be like George R.R. Martin, right? In Game of Thrones. That was like some of the most beautiful stories I've ever read in my life. And reading Stephen King, he has this quality to him that's not exactly the most beautiful, but it's almost like it's extraordinarily satisfying to read his books. He just has crafted such a great formula for writing, and his prose makes it so I can just sit there and read it forever. I can't get old of what he's writing. It's truly impressive. But of course, this is going to be like a total like spoiler talk through. So if you care or haven't read the book or watched the movie, I'd recommend stopping and going to do that, because I 100% recommend it. I say the book is like a 4 out of 5 stars. I think that's a fair assessment. Like, I'll get into it, but like overall the story was really good. There's just like some minor points that I feel like could have been done a bit better. Or at least to me, like I feel like there's some things that were started and weren't expanded upon properly. But like, I'll just go ahead and give, like, if anybody hasn't consumed it and is still watching it, I'll kind of give like a little premise. Basically, this guy, his name's Paul Sheldon. He's a pretty good writer, one could say, and he's writing books. These misery books is what they're called, and they're about this. They're like these, like 1800s like fiction romance books, right? Pretty cheesy, corny. You know, your run-of-the-mill, like, popular fiction. This guy thinks that, you know, he's a great writer, but misery is not really what he wants to be writing. So, at the start of the book, he gets into this terrible car crash. Poor buddy's kind of cooked. He's fried. You know, his legs are absolutely smashed, pulverized. You know, you get a really pretty gruesome depiction of that a bit later when he's kind of finally peeks under the curtain and kind of looks at what really happened to him. So he gets in this terrible car wreck after drinking and driving. I mean, come on, big guy. Like, we're really drinking and driving. Like, you kind of, I wouldn't say you deserve it, but we really shouldn't be drinking and driving, all right? Like, this all could have been avoided if you don't drink and drive. I think it's a great lesson to pull from this, by the way. Just don't drink and drive, kids. That being said, he gets saved by this absolute turbo freak called Annie Wilkes, or Ann Wilkes. I think that's how you pronounce her name. It could be Wilkes, but I'm pretty sure it's Wilkes. She's this absolute monstrosity of a being. The book kind of describes her, in my opinion, almost like a boar, like a really big boar. Like, huge, hulking woman, extraordinarily tough and vigorous. Like, many descriptions of her being just, like, extremely physically capable. Like, she can do anything in the world physically. So that kind of, like, puts, like, a really imposing air around her and kind of sets up a lot of the horror really well, because it feels like Paul Sheldon really can't do anything against her physically. Which, of course, he can't anyway, because he's absolutely destroyed by this car wreck. And so he wakes up in her house. And he's like, okay, you know, what's going on? It's more like a haze of pain that he wakes up in. And she eventually, like, kind of comes around too in this terrible pain. And she comes in and kind of explains who she is and who she is and why she kind of brought him to her house. And she's describing how she realized that he is her favorite author. And he's, like, kind of sitting there like, oh boy, you know, like, this might become trouble. Like, why am I not in the hospital? And, you know, and throughout this, like, beginning part of the book, you kind of start, you know, it's pretty obvious that this lady is not, like, all there. Like, she's just crazy. And he realizes quickly that even though she's a really big fan of him, he needs to be extraordinarily careful with basically how he interacts with her, or she's just going to blow up and absolutely just destroy. She goes into these fits of rage. And it's harming Paul a lot during the book. It's where a lot of, like, the physical horror comes from. In the beginning, I think the biggest harm in the book that I found was probably the most disturbing was definitely his foot getting cut off. This happens a bit later in the book. To be honest, it's been a couple days. I forget exactly what caused her to cut his foot off. Yeah, I'm not too sure what caused her to cut his foot off. I really should have tabbed the book, but I didn't have tabs and I read it regrettably, so I wish I could go back and kind of look at that for you guys and describe it, but I don't. But the way that Stephen King describes the cutting off of this foot is extraordinarily gruesome. You know, the image of a blunt axe being used to slowly like beat into this foot and him panicked, trying to drive him back. Trying to drive his leg back, but he's slowly pulling his foot apart and the sinew is growing thinner, creating an opening for her to chop his foot off. It's truly a disturbing image you get. The physical horror in the book is probably the best part of it. I'd say it's the most riveting. And he does a phenomenal job with suspense. There's multiple times where he kind of leaves the room in his wheelchair when he finally gets a bit of mobility to come and try to like make his life better, get drugs. He's addicted to this drug called Novril. I'll touch more on that a bit later. But like and there's just, he does such a great job, Stephen King does, with the suspense of like Paul Sheldon leaving the room and trying to get back and be unnoticed when it comes to stealing these different things. Eventually he gets caught by Annie, and that leads, I think him getting caught is what leads to him getting his foot cut off. He gets caught with a knife because he's planning on stabbing her. Good for him, I would too, but she catches him, and I think that's what causes him to get his foot cut off. I'll kind of talk about what my, I guess, big gripe is, probably, before I talk about the ending of the book and kind of what I think. I guess the ending is part of what my gripe is, but, you know, we'll get back to that, of course. One of my biggest gripe is probably how is Paul Sheldon's addiction to the drug Novril. It's described during the book that he's got this addiction to this drug, and it's Stephen King keeps talking about it, and you know, it's one of those things where you expect this subplot to kind of go somewhere, because there's multiple times where Paul Sheldon is, you know, thinking to himself, wow, I really need to quit this drug, I need to wean myself off, blah blah blah, and it kind of never gets resolved. It kind of just becomes this empty plot point where it doesn't really go anywhere. I think he might have been I think he might have planned on resolving that better or expanding upon it later, and then kind of ran out of words or pages that he wanted to write because maybe he wanted to keep the book a certain length. I'm not completely sure, but I feel like he should have either cut it out or expanded upon it more. Because at the end of the book, all he does is just end up replacing the drug with, you know, alcohol, and not really ever solving the issue. And it's just like, he's like, I mean, I need to really get off. I need to wean myself off of this because Annie's got control over me. And I thought that he was going to, you know, dig deeper with that. Like, okay, like, is he not going to be able to get away from Annie, or is he not going to be able to kill her because of his drug addiction? But that's not expanded upon whatsoever. I just feel like that could have been done a bit better. I think it's just something that jumped out to me specifically is not my favorite part, or something that could have been done a bit differently. I guess I'll jump to the bit of the ending now. So, yeah, it's basically his plan at the end is to burn this book that Andy wants him to write. Wow, I'm terrible at talking about books, guys. Holy shit. I did not realize that I didn't even describe the whole point. So basically, Andy really loves Misery, these books. So she basically is forcing Paul Sheldon to write her a personal Misery book, because Paul Sheldon killed off the Misery character in the last of his book to kind of escape Misery and to escape that character, so he can kind of write more of his, like, quote-unquote real literature, is what he calls it. One thing that I kind of liked about probably one of my favorite things about the ending, probably my favorite thing, is him, or just during the book and his character development, is him, like, coming to love Misery, and you kind of get tidbits of this where he is able to kind of slip back into her world really easily and kind of see that hole into the paper. I liked that part a lot. It was interesting to see, you know, his character develop through Misery and writing that book. And at the end, he finally is able to write another book, you know, because he kind of deals with writer's block. Annie dies, he kills Annie. I know I'm jumping around But a part of the book that I really enjoyed was, Paul Sheldon being a writer. You kind of got to look into Stephen King because he draws a lot of experience when it comes to writing Paul from his own writing experience and his own things that he does when it comes to writing books. So it's really interesting seeing that and seeing like maybe what is his writer's process or what did he draw inspiration from while writing the book. It was interesting to kind of see that and understanding the writing process from a writer. I don't know. I really appreciated that. I thought that was some interesting insight. But now to go to the ending, he's burning he's pretending to burn the manuscript as he finished it because Annie is wanting to read this manuscript like so badly. She needs to finish it. It's like the one thing she cares about or she's going to kill herself. So she comes in and he lights this manuscript on fire, causing her to go berserk. She goes completely insane and he's able to kind of wrestle her down, shove, like almost make her die of asphyxiation. But something that I found kind of interesting when it comes to that is he didn't actually kill her. It wasn't him that killed her. She hit her head on the mantelpiece when she fell down from supposed choking and asphyxiation. She comes down and hits her head on the mantelpiece, and that's how she dies. I find it interesting that he mentioned that specifically because I feel like that more so alludes to the fact that he actually was never strong enough to kill Annie, and she only died of luck and kind of killing herself in an accident. He was never the direct cause of her death. I thought that was interesting because it really shows and points to the fact that Annie's just a true Hulk of nature, an absolute monstrosity that cannot be stopped physically. Because that's what she's described during the book. She like lumbers towards him. She bowls towards him. There's a scene where she punches his like absolutely destroyed knee and it causes him like extreme physical agony. But as like she's running towards him, she's described as almost this like bull that's running towards him. You can almost see her arms pumping and this huge mass just running towards you at like Mach 10, just to absolutely cause otherworldly pain upon you. I find, and he also describes Annie a lot as like an idol, and when he describes an idol, it's more so like a sentient god or sentient being of evil from other cultures. I think that's a perfect description of Annie. She's almost like in this otherworldly force that comes and like just destroys this guy's life. I'm just going to kind of jump to the ending and kind of give my final thoughts on the book. He's able to finally kill Annie, or as I described, not exactly kill her, but she dies, and he's able to escape because of the police coming to check on him, or check on the house. He ends up kind of being able to walk again, which, I don't know, I feel like it's fine. The way he was described, where his legs were absolutely pulverized, I guess it's kind of explained, and he says he consulted medical professionals when writing the book, so I'll trust him on it, but I personally think that Paul Sheldon would never have been able to walk again, especially when it comes to healing, pretty much, like his legs being healed in an unnatural shape. I think that would basically stop any form of natural healing possible, and there's so many examples of like pulverized victims in car wrecks having their legs amputated. I'm not sure about the accuracy of that, but of course it's fiction. I can't complain too much. And he's dealing with this writer's block after coming out of the hospital, and also this PTSD of dealing with Annie. And so the whole point of the little epilogue / the ending is to have basically him overcome this writer's block, and be able to write again. And that's what ends up happening. He's able to finally overcome his writer's block, and you feel good for him and everything, and the book ends. Now for my final thoughts. I think the book was a good 7, 8 out of 10 book. Like, it was really good, a really addicting read, but the ending and some of the minor points in the book probably could have been workshopped to have better continuity. I don't know, really overall, I really enjoyed the book, and I'm really excited to read more of Stephen King. That's one thing that I'm really excited to do. My sister and / my whole family, really, besides me, has read a lot of Stephen King in the past. This is really my first novel from him, and I'm really impressed. There's another one that I want to read from him is The Stand. I've kind of heard that it's phenomenal. Mr. Mercedes is supposed to be really good. Any book like that, I'm really excited about reading. I want to read it very badly. Apparently Under the Dome is good, but I know that Stephen King has such like a wide library and so many different things to choose from that I'm really excited to kind of delve into more of what he's written, because he's a truly profound and prolific writer. That kind of does it for this video. But if you want to stay tuned, maybe tomorrow or some other day, I'll upload a video on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5, because I just finished JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 5. Absolutely great arc / part of the story. I really want to discuss it though. So there's a lot of opinions online about it, and I want to kind of get my own fair shake at it, and kind of like what my thoughts on the story were, and how excited I am to watch and read the different parts of it in the future. But that's it for me, guys. If you liked watching, leave a like or a comment. If you want me to review anything, whether that be like a TV show, a game, a book, a manga, etc., feel free to leave a comment, and I'll be down to do a little bit of an unscripted review like this. And if you liked it, leave a like, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.